Hi everybody, I'm Ashley Frazier, LMFTT. T is coming out soon, hopefully. And my presentation is on the African American father and the child's from the child's perspective using the Frazier family data set. Does race matter? We'll see. So the absent father, a little background. There are handouts, it's on the table. So according to research, there are 58% of black children who are raised in a single mother or household. So that's more than half, so I see that as a problem. So most of my research that I do on the absent African American father, how he became absent, what has society done to assist in that absence, and what as a society we can do to reincorporate him into the family. So other factors that leads to the absence include jail, being unwed, we heard about jail earlier, being unwed from the mother, and economically unstable. And so when you're unwed, then you have less access to the children or whatever else is going on with the mother. So there are great positives that occur when the father is present in the home, such as having a higher income. You have two incomes that works way better than one, especially if you're low income. The child study showed that children have higher grades and they have higher school attainment. So most of the research that's done now, if they have participants who are like college age, and it's like, oh, my father was there, or I got another mentor who was there for me that stepped in as a father. But most of the samples that I've been doing on my past research states that their father was there or they had that person there. And then there's also research that shows there's lower levels of depression and mental health when the father is present. When he's absent, the child or adolescent is more likely to drop out of school, more likely to have sex earlier. I think research says around age of 12, 13, depending on sex. They're more likely to get pregnant, again, depending on sex. And they're more likely to use drugs. And so problems that happen is the co-parenting becomes the biggest part. A lot of research says that the reason a lot of fathers aren't there because of the difficult relationship they have with their kid's mother. So if they can't cope, they try not to co-parent correctly, or they are having problems figuring that out, figuring out the whole situation, then they're less likely to see their kids. So one of the theories that I use within this paper is the Bowen family systems, triangulation, and having a child in that triangle that, I'm not seeing you because you're mother, or the mother telling the kid, I'm not seeing you because you're dad, or your dad's not going to see you because X, Y, and Z. And so I just like this quote from Bowen, an entire family can be changed through the effort of one person, and most of the times it can be the child trying to make that change. I did a research study before trying to figure out how the daughter, like a college-age daughter, still feels about her absent father, and no matter what, I found that she still wants to have a relationship with him. Like even if she's 22, 25, and never had a relationship with him, she still wants to have one with him today. So it's interesting. So the purpose of this study is to figure out to examine the relationship between the child and the father from the child's perspective. Like I said, I did the Frazier family data set, and for those who aren't, so those who aren't familiar, it has all these different ways that they collected data, and so I looked at year 9, so at the sample year that's before they had the kid, that was the baseline, so year 1, then kids 1, so now they're 9-year-old, they now have, in their study, they did home visits, interviews with the mother, father, kids, and the teachers, and so I think that was unique to this year because they didn't do that any other time, and I really wanted the kids' perspective. I really wanted the perspective from everybody, the mother, father, and kids, to figure out the involvement, but everyone has their own answer. So what the kid may think is more involved, the mother may not think is involved, and dad may think is involved, and so I chose the kid to go back. So go back. So my research question is, does the amount of time that a father spends with their child affect the child's attitude towards the father? And when controlled for race, does the amount of time that a father spends with the child affect the child's attitudes towards the father? So, I used different questions. I was trying to figure out, like I asked Jared, like, so what did you use to measure these things? Because it's a lot of data in that data set. So some of the things that I looked at, some of the questions, interview questions that I looked at was, your dad talks over important decisions with you, your dad listens to your side of an argument, your dad spends enough amount of time with you, your dad misses events and activities that are important to you, and how close you feel to your dad. So the child is asked all these questions, and I analyzed that data to figure out the amount of time that the father actually spends with them. So if there's other questions like, have you spent the night with your father in the past month? So if you answered that and said that you feel close to your dad, then I rated it as a 1. If you said that you feel close to your dad, but you did not spend enough time, you did not spend time with him in the past month, spent the night with him, then that was a 2. And if you answered you just did not spend time with him, that was a 3. And so then I analyzed my data, and then I controlled for race as well. So the analysis that I used was the factorial analysis, and there was a lot of missing data because it's missing absent fathers, right? And so I'm trying to figure out how to figure out information about absent people. So it's kind of like a conundrum. But there was a lot of missing data for the fathers, and so that's why I went through and I had to take out a lot of data because of all of that. I wanted to be true to my data. And so this is a chart of, like I said, the 1, 2, and 3. 1 being that the father was there, the child spent the night with them within the last month. And the question of how close you feel to your dad. And so as you see, the one race pretty much it wasn't significantly. This one it was significantly. It was statistically significant, and that was the only one that actually was when I ran my different analyses between race. Other than that, it wasn't different. There was no difference, but there were difference between the amount of time that they actually spent with their kid. Had that here. And so when I went back and looked at all the questions based on the amount of time that the child says that they spend with them, it showed that it really does matter if the kid feels that the father is listening to them and has an important voice. So, yes, this is what I just said. So the main effect was between race, so the black fathers, it was a difference between black and white when the child felt that the dad shared important ideas that mattered to them. So limitations to this data. There's a lot of data, and everyone has their opinion when it comes to is the father involved. So as a father, you can say, well, I see my kid once a month and I pay child support, so I'm involved. The mother may not think that's enough. The child may not think that's enough. And so when you measuring that, how do you measure that? And so I would love to do an analysis trying to figure out that, but like I said, it's absent fathers, and if they're not there, how can you do that? I also was just thinking about doing a prison study for fathers who was incarcerated and try to get their family members on the outside, try to do a comparison. So when reunification comes, then we can figure that out and how that happens. As a therapist, I would love to do that. So future, hopefully. So, and also would like to, so for my dissertation, I will be doing research on fathers, their perception of being involved in kids' lives and their perception on their fathers, and so do like a transgenerational effect of fatherhood in the Black community. Questions?